Can you guys see anything? Or not yet?
We see that you've chosen standard 2.5.
You know, maybe
it was a patient who had undergone a partial right hepatectomy for colorectal liver metastases, and this was their post-op day 7 scan. And you can see that there's all this air in the abdomen. The stomach was very distended. They asked us if we thought this was, appropriate for post-op, and we said, it seems like a lot of air. There wasn't a lot of fluid though, so it was a little bit unusual. And then that there was air within the hepatectomy cavity up here. So it was a little weird. And one of my astute colleagues said, they didn't understand also why there was all this retroperitoneal air. And they suspected that there could be an injury or perforation of the duodenum here. So we had the patient drink contrast. They came down, and the contrast is mostly, you can see in the, in the stomach here. So what we didn't have them do, which we should have done, was have them lie on their right side or roll around. So luckily we were monitoring it. So we basically gave them more contrast through their tube and had them lie on their right side. And you can now see that there is contrast in that hepatectomy cavity from this perforation of the duodenum right here. I don't know if you can see exactly, but there's basically a perforation of the duodenum here. The teaching point I wanted to make about this case was when we were discussing it with the surgeons, they were asking each other if they had done a Kocher maneuver on the duodenum. And I've heard them talk about this Kocher maneuver before in like tumor boards and stuff, but I didn't really know much about it. So I wanted to just briefly talk about that. I made a little PowerPoint slide. Sai inspired me. Can you guys see it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Kocher maneuver is basically when you cut the attachments of the second and third portion of the duodenum over here, and then you lift the pancreas, the duodenum and the pancreatic head so that you can expose the IVC and the pancreatic head. And the only times you would necessarily do this, you do this at the beginning of a Whipple procedure, but you can also do it if you need to expose the IVC or the renal veins because of an IVC leiomyosarcoma or renal tumor growing into there, or if you're doing a portal lymphadenectomy. So for example, if this had been a cholangiocarcinoma resection and they had to go do a portal lymphadenectomy, they would have done a Kocher maneuver and mobilized the duodenum and to get to that area to get to those lymph nodes. Because this was just for colorectal liver mets, they just did they just had to mobilize the right lobe of the liver. So in order to mobilize the right lobe of the liver, what they do is they cut all these ligaments of the right lobe, which is the triangular and the coronary ligaments that are basically sealing it to the back of the abdominal cavity. And that's how they were able to get to the dome of the liver to resect that liver met. So anyway, in this case, this patient, when they went in to go repair his duodenal perforation, they saw that he basically had an ulcer that because of the stress of the surgery had perforated. But they knew that they didn't really have a high risk of having a duodenal injury from their actual surgery because they had not performed a Kocher maneuver. So that was the point of that case.
Cool.
Okay.